House Democrats in hot water. Some members of the party could face criminal charges after the Trump administration says they tried to storm an ICE detention facility in New Jersey.
Take a look. That confrontation last Friday happened after Newark Mayor Ras Becara allegedly tried to enter the facility and was eventually arrested for trespassing. Democratic Representatives LaMonica McIver, Rob Menendez, and Bonnie Watson-Coleman, all from New Jersey, can be seen at one point yelling in a melee with DHS agents.
The agency claims ICE body cam footage also shows Representative McIver, shown in the red blazer, elbowing her way past an agent to get through the gate and onto the property. McIver says she and other members of Congress were roughed up by agents. All three members of Congress deny that they were trying to storm the facility, saying they were there in an oversight capacity. Take a listen.
This facility that had just opened up on May 1st, it had over 100 detainees. We were getting reports prior to our tour that children were there. We did not know the status of the facility or the status of the detainees. And so that is why we showed up there to do our job as members, and New Jerseyans count on us to do our job.
DHS now says they're looking at arresting the members of Congress who were there on Friday, something that Michael Knowles says does need to happen, drawing similarities to January 6th.
On January 6th, the right-wingers who went into the Capitol and made a ruckus of themselves, they were eccentric civilians. Here, the people who were doing an insurrection at a government building and trespassing and assaulting police officers on camera, those people are Democrat elected officials. I know that DHS is talking about charging these people with crimes. More arrests should be made. They should arrest these members of Congress who were there, who assaulted cops, who were trespassing. Absolutely.
I'm sure you're going to appreciate the eccentric individual's defense.
One of the most
January
ridiculous
6th.
things I've ever heard in my life, honestly. I mean, that's just so ridiculous. 140 law enforcement officers injured on January the 6th, trying to overturn a democratic election.
Well,
I mean,
and I believe
we can have the debate about what happened at the ICE facility, and I think some of it is mired in confusion, honestly, because we have claim and counterclaim and video shot by each side. But the parallel with January the 6th.
I make no
nonsense.
excuses for anyone who was fighting with the cops. They should be, or who committed violence against the cops. They should be charged. In that case, in January 6th, for certainly, I would not have pardoned them, as I've said. And I feel the same about what happened at the facility. I agree with you, Niall. I think it's a little bit unclear. You never want to. I never, as a libertarian, want to just take the police's word for it, or the authority or the law enforcement, whoever it is, that protesters were acting out of control. This is why I favor body camera footage and revealing those kinds of things, so that we don't need to just rely on people's conflicting agendas. We can settle it for ourselves. You absolutely have the right to protest, whether you're a legislator or a citizen or anyone else. You can show up to the facility, protest outside. You can't tussle with law enforcement. You can't block the entrance, as these protesters I understand it was at a different protest at the same facility, but at a different group of people were like religious protesters were actually blocking the entrance. Can't do that. If you do that, you're going to get detained or arrested or something. It's a little bit like that judge case with the judge who is alleged to have helped an illegal immigrant evade capture. The government's going to have to make its case that that's what she did. She gets her defense. They're entitled to their defense. Just protesting is not illegal if that's all they were doing, or they were trying to gain access using the appropriate channels. It's all fine. We need more information. What else can I say?
So I would applaud you for your skepticism of police and authority, which I'm well aware that is how you feel. Yeah. And I think that more people from a libertarian bent, making that argument would be useful to political discourse. I think we agree that there's a lot that is unclear in terms of the actual events. One thing that is not unclear is that members of Congress have a legal right to inspect immigration detention facilities in that oversight role, and the law is equally clear that they do not need to provide prior notice to do so. And this is a point that AOC and numerous other Democrats have made in the past couple of days. I would add, in fairness, that I presume that is one of the reasons why Ras Becara, the mayor of Newark, has been charged and the members of Congress have not. He obviously would not have that protection. That condition would not cover him. Now, a couple of things I think are being a little bit lost here. One is that the members of Congress are saying that they were manhandled by the cops, essentially, agents of the state in one way or another. And they have the right to make that claim and pursue that claim if they wish to do so, just as the government in various guises has the right to make its argument that there were assaults carried out. The fact that the members of Congress were allowed to be there and are legally entitled to go into the facility makes me curious, were they illegally barred from doing so? Were they, as McIver says, roughed up? Hakeem Jeffries talks about them being physically accosted. Hakeem Jeffries, I should say, wasn't there. He is speaking in his role as House Minority Leader. So, and a number of other Democratic lawmakers have made that claim. I want to know more about that, as well as wanting to know more about the overall picture.
Yeah, I mean, in the footage, we're seeing on screen right now, it looks like a general scene of confusion,
yes,
and police maybe fearing being overwhelmed. There are a lot of people there. Pushing toward the entrances, but can't just take their word for it. Gotta know, right? The police obviously have the right to, if they can lay hands on you if they're detaining you or stopping you from going somewhere in legitimate circumstances. But I don't know whether that's the case or not.
Right. Another strand to this debate, which is also being sort of overshadowed by debates about who exactly pushed who in the footage that we're looking at, is that this facility in New Jersey is one of those run by a private prison company. I'm never sure if it's pronounced Geo Group or GEO Group, but they operate a number of private prisons. And in this particular case, they were actually being sued by Newark, by the city of Newark, because of provisions that they allegedly had not met. So I think, you probably have much less skepticism about the private prison industry than I do. I am inherently skeptical of for-profit detention facilities or incarceration facilities, and I would question whether there have been complaints already about the conditions in this particular one in New Jersey, and that presumably was one of the reasons that prompted both the protest and the desire of the members of Congress to see it.
I have some mixed views on private prisons. I think my biggest concern with it is probably not, well, you'll probably share this concern, but is not the same as what you just outlined, is that then the financial incentive at like a state basis, these contractors
to incarcerate more people.
They have a financial incentive to lobby the legislature to make the laws more stringent, right, for their own economic benefit. Right. I think that's a pretty perverse incentive. I'm a little bit skeptical of claims that like the conditions in private prisons are worse or that there's less accountability. In some ways, my understanding, even from very pro-criminal justice people who are just not fans of the prison system in general, who have suggested to me in the past, in some cases even suing private prisons is an easier way to get accountability than the public prisons, where you can get no accountability for similar levels of abuse. So I think it's the financial incentive part that bothers me, not necessarily the conditions being necessarily so much worse. Conditions can be pretty bad in prisons across the board.
Absolutely, and I mean, I think that is something that is rightly sounded by people. Our friend Stephen Kent, who sometimes sits in your seat on Fridays, is a guy who's very into prison reform from a sort of libertarian perspective, because he believes that the conditions of incarceration, regardless of whether it's a private or state or federal prison, are injurious to people actually being rehabilitated.
Yeah. Unlike Amber, who's on Fridays, probably jail them all.
Jail them all in the worst conditions possible, I think, would be Amber's view.
I don't think we're besmirching her. I think
she'd enthusiastically
laugh as well. Up next, we speak to a native Palestinian who says he's lost 30 family members to the war in Gaza. Tragic, terrifying story. You won't want to miss that interview. Stay with us.